I love that picture in the background right there. Oh, the centerpiece of that is amazing. OMG. Right now. Let's just give gratitude for the Most High for all that's happening right now. Is it me? Is it me? Am I the only one feeling this energy, this climate right now? What the fuck is going on, bro? Am I the only one now? As you can see, the topic at hand is going to be this astrological transit right now. This Pluto retrograde. Great things have been happening, but boy, you want to talk about getting your ass whooped, spiritual relationship dynamics. Yo, this right here is so deep because it's truly highlighting so much right now. And I'm talking about on all aspects of our life. Greetings to all, peace and greetings to all, man. Let me tell you something. This right here, bro, is like, whoa. It's truly monumental. Yeah. Where do I start? Okay. So again, if you are new here, again, my message is a lot have to do with truly following like this, learning this path of authenticity and this healing journey, and this shit is far from perfect. Let me tell you something. That shadow work, like facing yourself in that shadow work and like ending cycles, walking away from things, starting new, it can be very like, whew, oh my goodness. And the interesting thing about all of this is this transit right now, like we're literally days out of Pluto going direct in Aquarius. Man, if you have been following me, again, my message is to share my experiences personally from my, awareness and then bring it back home to self, bring you back home to who you are. Thank the Most High Source that we don't look like what we've been through. Let me tell you something. Is it me, but have it feels like the energy in itself has been so intense lately, like whether globally, family dynamics, communities, relations, relationships. I mean, like, whoa. I ain't ever in my life felt so empowered. Like, look at the title. Pluto retrograde is an opportunity to move beyond your past into your future. Listen, I don't care if you do study astrology or not, to each their own. This was updated on May 2nd, and I'm going to receive what I want from it, to try to clarify from my experience and so forth. But you're not going crazy for what's happened in the stars or inwardly and so forth, because this has been, I'm telling you, from personal experiences. From personal experience of even trying to walk a path that's authentic, like, bruh. I'm just going to read stuff briefly. Let me see. So basically it's just stating like Pluto retrograde is a period where, it's a rare opportunity to gain incredible growth, fresh insight, and meaningful transformation. So just know that your journey is not in vain. The more I get into deeper awareness of myself, the more I start deepening my awareness about like my own perspective on life. When I'm talking about introspective insight, oh my gosh, the clarity I've been getting, like it's been highlighting a lot of my own karmic decisions or lessons, relationships, things I've been battling with from childhood. Like so much transformation has been happening, bro. So, as I mentioned here, whether you're looking into breaking free from long-held habits, rethink your goals, or deepen your understanding of yourself, Pluto retrograde offers a perfect chance to clear out your mental clutter and revisit the ideas that you have needed time to evolve. If that's one big thing I've learned, is that how to, during retrogrades, from my perspective, and I heard an elder speak about, is that retrogrades in itself are more spiritual than they are physical. So notice how even when we try to find ourselves in giving over our power by overexerting or overcompensating, like I've been talking about. A lot of that has to do with, when you look at child development, when you look at one of the big things that I've having to face when it comes to control, when it comes to power, when it comes to the false, and I've talked about the false empowerment of what the patriarchal represents, which is more so like abuse and control rather than loving and nurturing, and having to navigate through that with learning to unlearn certain self-sabotaging behaviors, with having to learn my own learned behavior patterns where I was not only neglecting myself or abandoning myself, but I was also hurting others in that when I wasn't conscious aware. There's no shame and guilt in like anything that I share, because it's truly a lot of growth that's unfolding. So I've been in a big year, my personal year. If you're familiar with that, you can look it up. And again, to each their own if you're not into it. But if you are into like things that are more on a spiritual aspect, or astrologically speaking, or stuff like that, take from what you have, and just see how it just changed your perspective on life. I'm not trying to convince you and so forth, but I learned that my personal year is a 7, which deepens, and if you aren't familiar with that, your personal year would be when you were born, the day and the year, and add those numbers up, and then add the last 2 numbers and break them down to one number. Or just, if you look into it and research it, it'll show you how to do it. And then you add that year to the year, you add those numbers up, and then you add the year that we're in, supposedly 2024, which is a 9 year. So if you're wondering why certain things you want to hold on to, I've been noticing this with me. The things I want to hold on to, even the idea, and I'm talking about the idea of unhealthy attachments with myself, with other people, business, partnership, family, in all aspects of what that's supposed to look like, whether holistically or even from a perspective of fear. And what I'm meaning by this is like even my interpretation of what family is supposed to be and how that is supposed to be structured. So this is where that fresh insight comes from, learning to navigate through my own emotions, learning to navigate through what it is to feel safe, and what it is to learn again in my personal year, seeing how reflecting on that is more of an introspective, did I say that correctly? Yeah, introspective year, or learning more of like reflective is again and everyone's in a different personal year. If you add this up again, it's going to look different for everyone. But when I say it resonated with me so much so, I was immediately blown away, because as I come into 8 year, my personal year, it really highlights from reflecting more on the 7 years before. So if you're in a 9 year, you reflect on the 8 years before. And all of that just brings you to that place, whether memories and so forth, and, yada, 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 because this has been happening since we were very young. But basically those personal years holds a different energy. So for me, I've been getting so much clarity, and it's been teaching me the balance between introspect and then the other perspective, the perspective of things outwardly. So it's been very emotional. It's been very heart-wrenching, transformative, almost Phoenix-like. And one thing I've learned about shadow work, or facing your fears or subconscious fears, as Pluto and Aquarius will talk about, is it will bring you to those very things within yourself that you deem as healthy, or what you don't realize that those fears bring balance. You can either face it and run, or face it and rise. And so that can look different for everyone. So for me, I've had to learn about habits, whether financially, I had to learn about certain things, that how to learn to be selfish when I did not feel the need to be, which I need to prioritize. My independence is one of the biggest things that I realized, like through the learned behavior patterns. I've been learning more to be more interdependent and independent in my decision making and doing what's best for me, because I realized, like growing up, when you were taught to be a protector for others, I didn't learn how to protect myself. And so with that, I'm learning certain relationship dynamics, certain business, certain aspects of, like, when it comes to my artistry, when it comes to putting myself in position, am I protecting myself emotionally, mentally, physically? Those I've talked to you about, the shelter experience, like the safety and how systems are put in place, but there's not a wellness aspect that is centered around it. Like when you're talking about the safety or being around other people that don't prioritize their health, that don't prioritize their emotions, and don't prioritize a lot of things. So with that, it highlights that, if that makes sense. It highlights to where you cannot not see it. And so this gives one an opportunity to move in a different direction, introspect, go inward, and realize, like, okay, even though I'm seeing this, what could I do differently? And so that's where you evolve, when you realize, like, okay, if I dealt with abandonment issues young, then why do I have these? Asking yourself, why? Do we really ask ourselves, why do I have these behavior patterns? Why is my life like this? And then that why gets you to a place of, okay, I had to take full accountability, and address these things. So with that, let me tell you something, man. You think you be knowing something till you realize some of the greatest lessons come through your relationships. One thing about Pluto in Aquarius is retrograde. Again, it highlights so much centered around self and other people, the collective. And let me read into this. It was saying, when Pluto retrograde is taking place in Aquarius this year, the usual retrograde rules don't apply. Aquarius thrives in innovation, individuality, and all things eccentric, so that this is a perfect time to step off the beaten path and pursue what genuinely excites you. Now, that in itself shows me the fact that when I look at my life, not everyone else, but when I say that we come from generations who, when you look at what's trending, or everyone focus on what everyone else is doing rather than their individuality, innovation, when it mentioned, like, all things eccentric, and then literally stepping away from what the norm is, societal norms, and doing what excites you. I realized, as in stepping to that authenticity, because Aquarius is like the rebellious type of energy. And I realized I inherited that from my mother, because she's an Aquarius and she holds that energy very well, even through her, however she functions. It's like, I talked about, and this may sound funny, when you look at people that deal or dive into substance abuse, the funny thing about this is that she will still handle her business, but at the same moment, it's how she portrayed the energy, or projected the energy in a way to where she still was rebellious. Everyone is not perfect in how they act out certain things and so forth. This is why energy gives people opportunity to bring forward balance. That's just like me not trying to show emotions now that I embody them even more. So I cannot not show that, even when people are intimidated, when I'm just fucking being myself. So I'm realizing, like, from in a world that has been so fake and been in praising the mass, I realize authenticity isn't rewarded as would be people who portray an image or portray themselves in everything but authentic, or their focus is to, as soon as they get up, is to people please and so forth. So again, that is very uncomfortable in a society and a community, even in relationships, where you're taking back your power, and then you're also recognizing where you abused your power, where you're in a society where, again, when you see what, as I mentioned before, when you're recognizing the economic system that is crumbling right before us, and then seeing and highlighting how people do not embrace their individuality, or their self-expression. They don't embrace their confidence or innovative nature, or just their individuality, and they don't go towards what excites them. And the reason that is again, learned behavior patterns and the false programming of what some may call the matrix, or even the world, or even societal norms or others' belief systems. So with that, they don't do what excites them. They actually do, which is mental disorder, what they actually go towards, which is so like sad in a way. They go towards what angers them, and that's in status, that's in career. They go towards things that continues the repression of emotion, the suppressing, and so forth. So by me saying that, I'm recognizing even through this retrograde, in the 5 months of even the shelter experience, it was showing me again like power struggles. Because Pluto, I'm gonna read more, and it was talking about how okay, before I say that, it says, even if it feels a bit out there at first, Pluto retrograde is all about tapping into your unique energy and making bold, authentic choices that align with your truest self. Now, with that, you're talking about the fact of how many people actually follow their heart, or follow who they are, and go towards their truest self, meaning their highest self, or even go towards their destiny, walk towards what it is they honor and love. How many people do that? How many people do that without a sense of trying to look for validation from the world or acceptance? So I recognize, even in relationship dynamics, even in the settings that I was placed, I still was placed there on a mission to be authentic. I was still placed there to be to rise, to be reborn through the power struggles of, let's say, authority, but the authority not upholding integrity. But then when I spoke up, then my integrity will be questioned, as I would say, like, and stuff like that. Because I realized, like, these people did not, they mask themselves as a source of mask themselves as an authority, but core belief systems did not prioritize integrity or morality or principles for the betterment of not just one but all people. So I was recognizing this in a lot of characters, a lot of people, a lot of experiences in my world, where it calls you to experience with people, whether you want to call it karmically, that's disrupting, or whatever it is. It's calling you to stand in your power. And I tell you, one of the biggest things I recognize right now in the climate of the world, or even the collective as it shifts, is that we're recognizing how much we were controlled as a child through child development, not just through society and not just through government structures or whatever it is, but also through the fact of in this totality of everything, community-wise and so forth. And in that inability to not have some type of, not even just control, but some type of freedom or liberation or sovereignty as a child, we're recognizing now how much that is a priority. That's what I had to recognize. That's what I had to embrace. I was like, yo, pause. I'm like, and even if you're in a relationship dynamic, it's how many of us know the importance of the sovereignty or the liberation within ourselves before we get into the connection with people who are not aware of that. It's like what they call being unequally yoked, or someone who's not willing to, they can change clothes, but they're not willing to evolve. And so this is where the split happens. So going back, returning to what I was saying about, again, a lot of what you're seeing play out is a lot of us are realizing through, and what I speak about, the inner child, is that I was recognizing, even through my dynamic with my daughter and other experiences, I was around people who portrayed this distorted mother or distorted father. Even in myself, when I didn't recognize it until later, like, even if I did not, like, even if I wasn't doing things like other people would, like, let's say a belief system of whooping a child, I still had to recognize where this retrograde has shown me when I was going inward, and a lot of childhood things were being brought up, a lot of things that I've spoken about on my YouTube and so forth. I was highlighting the fact of, again, the innocence where we were young, how much that was so controlled through religion, through belief systems, through manipulation, through so many things that we're not aware of until now, whether in later age, and some people don't even become aware of it until you realize the systems in place were not only abusing the innocence of who we are internally, but externally seeing it play out through everything systematically. The abuse of power. That's the thing about Pluto in Aquarius. But the Pluto in Aquarius aspect now, the retrograde, is highlighting the Pluto, I believe, in Capricorn, the systems that were put in place to keep people in a place of not embracing their individualism, their innovative aspect, their imagination, and highlighting that. So again, that's the very thing that was attacked when you look at the narcissistic templates and foundations of people who more so prioritize material security. And this is how you see a lot of people get manipulated when they're offered something such as like experiences through the fact of, again, when people are not in tune with have emotional security or compassion and so forth, then you'll see a society manipulate through monetary aspect, abuse of power, through housing, the housing system, abuse of power. When you look at gentrification, or even the fact of different class of people who can get loans, who cannot, who get certain resources, who cannot, all these things again that you're seeing highlighted, because that Pluto aspect is the secrets, the darkness, the hidden truths, and so forth. That Aquarius aspect is the energy of the humanitarian. So anything opposite of that will highlight. The opposite of that will be the self-righteous, the greed, the gluttony that I've talked about. And that happens in all levels. It's not just when it comes to certain people who have obtained said success. It's more so of the greed or the self-righteousness, or certain things that they've done to obtain it. The abuse of power of people who were innocent to obtain certain things. Also, that goes to in your community settings. People who are supposedly to be seen as a public figure or someone of a high caliber, but deeming themselves higher than other people just because of their status. Abuse of power. People in a family dynamic who use their power as a mother or father in certain settings, in certain governmental structures, in certain community settings. So many things, so many experiences. Again, this power struggle, this hidden truth, all these things where you start to realize that is a spotlight right now. Whether past relationships, finances, as it says, all these emotions that, again, Pluto represents things to the depth, is ruled by Scorpio. So when you talk about emotions, there are things that can no longer and will not be hidden, not just from you, but in the family dynamic. So when it starts with you, your relationship with self, then it branches off. You represent a tree, so everything branches off to like the family. Then you have, where does the family connect to? The community setting, and the community connects to this, and the community connects to certain things, structurally. All of it is connected. It has a connection. So now it's funny because we're like days away from Pluto going direct. The reason I talk about this is so much is because the shadow work will also reveal not only yourself, but it will reveal other people who are carrying this illusion or false mask of power. And not to mention, like, when you're talking about even the illusion of, when it says exposing hidden financial truths, we see that globally. We see that in governmental structures. We see it says stir up and unexpected power struggles. I see that a lot, even in the dynamic of, again, the shelter experience, where you have people who, again, when you reflect on their child upbringing or their child development, Wherever people feel like they didn't have power, they reenact this through relationships, and that's from experience, personal experiences. I can honestly say I portrayed false sense of power when I didn't even know it. Abuse of power is abusing people, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So when I say the spiritual community, abuse of power, people that are in position who have abused their power, gatekeeping certain things, whether resources, so many things. This is the abuse of power in a universe, in a world where there are an abundance of resources, an abundance of everything. So there's no difference on a micro and macro level. Micro meaning like with yourself, where you don't feel you want more out of life, but you don't feel worthy of it. Ask yourself why you don't feel worthy. And when you ask yourself why, you'll realize what's blocking you. And it's something within you. You know, a lot of things we may want a big family, but sometimes that tribe consists of other people that doesn't biologically come, that are born up like in your family. So a lot of things we want, and this is where our innocence comes into play. When we had so many things trying to strip us of our innocence, of our essence, and so forth. And as these retrogrades or these things, that these astrological things, these stars come along to remind us that, listen, all of these are lessons to return back to you, to see the innocence in you, your mind. When you declutter your mind of that, those issues that you dealt with, you return to the innocence of what your mind used to be. As your imagination, the power of that, the limitlessness. Same thing with who you are. You realize like certain relationship dynamics or connections where you may have felt a sense of betrayal or power struggle, or you may feel a sense of like you overlook something and you this spotlight is on this person and so forth, and so many things that could be brought up in that, whatever your experience was from when you were a child up to now in adulthood, or even wherever you are. A lot of this brings a different perspective on how you see yourself, most importantly. So for me, again, I'm not at all feel shame and guilt around what I've been mindful of at times where I used to wear my heart here, and I realized my heart has always been in here, and I have to be mindful to protect that. I have to be mindful to guard that above all things, because as I call back my power, take back my power, I protect my essence, my love. I become more magnetizing, because in a world full of people, or in environments where everyone doesn't love the way you do, everyone doesn't have a heart the way you do, or it's so many different things where you have to realize like, let me be able to recognize that it's me. Where do I need to take full accountability? Now let me read more into this. In astrology, Pluto, the planet of power and profound transformation, is linked to deep subconscious change that reaches beyond the surface. When Pluto goes retrograde, it acts as a silent invitation to turn inward, facing your fears, reassessing your mindsets and beliefs, relationships, especially those connected to power, control, and personal growth. This is why I kept telling y'all, on a micro and macro level, there is a collapse in power. False empowerment, abuse of power. With that, then there will be a new order of things. No matter how people don't like shit or whatever it is, this has happened through hundreds, thousands of years, eons, whatever you want to call it. So it's an opportunity not only for personal growth, but it's an opportunity to see where are you needing to take back your power, call back your power, or step into your power, or where have you abused your power. Like I said, I can see how certain dynamics where I've been trying to hold up this mask of being the perfect father. Not at all. I have to realize like that little boy in me was hurt to where I was impulsive. I didn't know how to manage my emotions, so I abused my power by raising up my voice or not saying the most healthiest things, because that's how I really felt about myself, or that was things that was buried inside of me, or this probably was something linked to my childhood where I didn't feel worthy, or that I had power then. Again, when I grew up when you grew up in an abusive home, or in environments like that, that is a false sense of power. There's an abuse of power by that mother or father, because again, not only are you planting seeds and you reap what you sow, but you're also trying to overpower said child or persons with, let's say, resources that you have a house, or you're trying to control their destiny, and that's spiritually, for a lot of people who are trying to manipulate the structures or manipulate people's reality and experience, control their experience. Like I tell you before, shelter experience of being in places where people feel like, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and then you'll turn around and see someone else get away with something. That's an abuse of power. That's a manipulation. So I be pointing out, hey, that ain't integrity, that ain't morality, y'all ain't upholding the principles, y'all not upholding the contract. So what on a bigger scale this is about, it's just as much as a spiritual contract you agree with, it's just as much as a physical. So what collectively has happened is that the powers that used to be, that are crumbling, that are collapsing right before you, have breached their contract spiritually. So when I say time is up, the end of times, people have, it's like, it's when you deciding, you step into your power and call back your power, that contract with that person, people, environment, and place is void. You breached it. And then even with that, it's like, let's say you're supposed to, like, you're in a relationship dynamic, and let's say you two are supposed to come together karmically. This is for people who are into, things like that relationship wise. Some of you are here to, again, you agreed on these terms and conditions. It's just like the government or certain people. Y'all agreed to do this and do that. Whether people were here, however 9 years ago, when the U.S. was created, there was a spiritual contract and then a physical contract signed. So when you look at power, control, and then personal growth, the beauty of all of that is there was a belief system behind all of that. There were people who were placed in positions of authority to act this out. So a lot of y'all don't even realize you're carrying a belief system of someone else's, whether forefathers and so forth, that wanted to keep you in this power, false empowerment, the illusion of false empowerment, control, manipulation. Only for a lot of us to come into this awareness, it was for our greatest good. It was for our personal growth. I'm like, bravo. Because not here, it's not going to happen. And this is why a lot of people who come along, when you hear the term collective awakening or coming into a deeper awareness, is simply because you're choosing spiritually to go through what it is, let's say someone before you, generation of your ancestor, that energetically did not complete, did not finish. And so when you look at the climate, let's say, of a darker man, or especially for me, a lot of the power struggles I've been going through has a lot to do with not only when it comes to racism, when it comes to favoritism, and racism, in itself, the self-hatred of a society or a governmental structure or structure put in place to, again, use their power and the illusion of control to hinder the progression of said man that is darker, or darker women, and to progress or to uphold people of a lighter shade. And I keep telling y'all this shit, like, energetically, you're only collecting more karma, and that karma, you might not think it may not play out this generation, but during this Aquarian age, it is. And that's why no one can outrun what's here. Because on all different scales, whether you're darker or lighter and so forth, energetically speaking, from your lineage, everyone here gets an opportunity to progress in a different way, in a more holistic way, or in a more fearful place. The choice is yours. That's your free will. So personal growth has a lot to do with you, not other people. That's their free will. How you respond has a lot to do with your control, not theirs. So again, Aquarius being the rebellious and the humanitarian, the authentic aspect of energy, because that's a higher frequency, has a lot to do with people no longer going with the flow of things. No, they're rebelling against it, because for their own personal growth and for their own connection to those that come after them and so forth and so forth, because they're realizing the abuse of power that no longer will continue, the control, through media, so many different aspects. So again, me personally, my experience looks like, the power struggle between, let's say, the false empowerment of patriarchal, who don't uphold the holistic aspect of honoring one's darkness, the feminine principles, and one's masculine aspect, how we assert things. And then recognizing that abuse and power, how certain men of a certain status or creed or whatever abuse their said power with what they have financially, with their status, with their authority, and so forth. And even when they don't speak up and so forth, they still collect karma by, cowering out or not even speaking up to create or have an effect on not only themselves but everyone around them. So y'all don't realize, like, a lot of things where a lot of us are called to speak automatically affects everything around us. It affects inwardly, but everything around us, because we're taking back our power for those who were silenced young through child development. We're taking back our power when it comes to those who were abused by the financial system. So we're taking back our power by creating our own. Some people creating their own outlet and so forth. Again, you're going to see a balance between abuse of power and how these power structures or things, like even the government shutdown, a lot of things where you govern mental, a lot of things are for you to learn. It's the opportunity for people to learn how to govern them fucking selves. Or you will see a lot of people who will attach themselves, as I said before, and go out with that system that was built, again, 200 and some odd years ago. And then you're in a 9-year that all these endings and all these things are closing out. So you're seeing warlike tendencies, because that's the energy that it was created on. So the same way energy comes in, it goes out. So this is why it's so important where harvest and how you're planting your seeds, because whatever seeds you have sown, you reap that harvest from that. So there's no, I'm not worried. There's a concern around the fact of the generation after. I'm not at all afraid, because I know what I came here to do, and I got peace in knowing, like, whatever unfolds, whatever it shall be. But again, on different levels, that's why you're seeing a lot of people. Let me talk about on the micro level. When I look at relationships, when I look at things that have been repressed in the family, repressed in the generation over time, that were overlooked, all of that shit that was buried, not in the Aquarian age. I don't care how much money someone throws somebody way. I don't care how much people's status. The divine don't care how much. The Most High don't care how much people think that they can hide energetically. It will show. It will happen spiritually, and y'all will see it play out physically. The fears. Right now, people, they're being faced with their fears and their subconscious fear of the collapsing of an economic system that did not prioritize. When you look at power, when you look at control, when you look at growth, you're talking about the fact that these things have to happen so people can experience personal growth, to expand consciousness, to expand the awareness of what the fuck is going on. The control, and even how certain people receive resources. The power in how people use their power. I told y'all, the false sense of the patriarchal, which all of us have been affected by, but the wounded masculinity when it comes to the fact of how women have used their power, how men have used that power. And I speak on matriarchally because I've seen it firsthand in certain structures. This is not all women, but the women that have been in certain structures that choose not to speak about certain things because of the status and the power that they hold in the earthly plane or in the physical aspect, but still have subconscious fears around the inevitable happening or the possibility of them being stripped of their status. Other than that, the knowing the position that they have, whomever it is, the authority position, and then the control that they know they have, not only over the power that they're given, the control that they know they can implement into the masses again. And so this is why you're seeing the forces at play right now, where certain things are created for certain people to awaken through certain images, certain music, and so forth. And that's why I keep telling y'all, you're seeing a desperation of people trying to stay on the stage, and the curtain has already closed. The curtain is already closed. The new order of thing has a lot to do with people who hold a blueprint of the order connected to source, to the divine, to implement things that is the opposite of what was on this world stage. Or in as much as it's not everyone. You have to be discerning and realize, okay, this person right here, politically, whatever it is, they're actually implementing something to return to those who are the originals, indigenous, or even the fact of the righteous per se. And that can be people of different colors and creeds. So you're seeing a highlight of what has been done unrighteously for the uprise of the righteous. And then even through that process, you're going to see highlighted those who, my elder was saying, how you treat people on the way up is how you will be treated on the way down. Now you take from that what you feel. But again, this is why you're seeing so many things, distractions, and it's all how you see it. You can be looking at it from a different perspective, but it's going to highlight the fact of, as much as people don't want forward movement, there's going to be a highlight of rebellion. As much as people, I'm going to read this. It talks about how even Aquarius thrives on breaking boundaries, embracing individuality, and challenging social norms. So this retrograde will bring themes of freedom, liberation, I told you, independence, and self-expression to the forefront. Self-expression. And where that really highlights for me is that in times where you want to give up and just be like, oh, whatever, I realize whose self-expression has been attacked the most. And I actually had this talk with a sister that was my complexion. I was telling her, it's like I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I had experienced as a man of a darker complex in this country, where it seems like the women that don't love themselves, that look like me, hate me. Then I had to deal with the world in itself of other women who are lighter skinned, who again reflects their hatred for themselves because their men or their fathers, their self-hatred, pretty much intergenerationally. Because when you look at racism or self-hatred, you don't just have self-hatred for people of a certain color. That reflects you too. I see a lot of men who don't even like their women because of the fact of, it ain't even just like what they look like. Their hatred in itself is an oddly obsession with something else. So it's like a push-pull, or this like this mental disorder around the fact of the power struggle between honoring what is true and then living a lie, or living in a, carrying this mass of false empowerment. So again, when I look at the fact of what I personally have gone through, I'm like, you couldn't possibly, and I was telling the lady, you couldn't possibly know as a man, as I'm embracing these very things, like this rebellious energy that I have, and breaking beyond boundaries of what societal norms are for a darker man or just a man, the mental awareness around that, the emotional state, even outside of gender, just my individualism, my self-expression, how much that has been attacked. When we're talking about self-expression from the essence of who you are, I realize like how much that is attacked from us even as a child. And then when you see people in certain positions of power, they attack that self-expression through attacking the free speech, attacking how people want to, dress and be outside of even gender, how they present themselves, self-expression, all of this attack, And I love people from all walks of life. I don't even like to call out letters and stuff. I just know people from all walks of life. I look at it as an expression of self. Through their evolution, people go through different changes, just like I have. So when I realized, I realized that's what's been attacked in whatever community you're a part of. You know what I'm saying? I love the confidence of people. Let's say I went to, what do they call it? I went to events where people Vogue. Shout out to people that, those like who, let me tell you something, it's so inspirational to even see people who, whatever their sexual preference is, however they want to express themselves, it's beautiful to see, again, whatever they're going on inside, not be attacked, but to express. I've been to events. I've been in like I was called to go to places. I have no shame and guilt, because again, I have friends, relatives, and people who reference themselves to be a stud, a femme, all these other things. And guess what? The only thing that my biggest thing is respect. And that's why I feel like core values. I've been around people who have respect for a man who, some may say straight or whatever the other terms are, and never had an issue. But again, it's core values where we're in a world where people find a reason not to like someone. But again, this is where this mask comes in, where again you have people who actually live in communities where they will be outcasted for that. They will be degraded. And this is where the religious thing comes in. This is where the breaking the boundaries and embracing your individuality. I would encourage people, express yourself, love yourself. That's a part of loving who you are, no matter how you show up, no matter who you are. No one can tell you who and why you're doing what you're doing. That's why it's so important to follow your truest self, or be authentic in who you are in your expression. And again, through this retrograde has been showing me how that has been attacked, even through my expression, through my healing arts, or through my holistic arts, through my using my art to connect to people on a more deeper and compassionate level, on a level where it's liberating. My going towards my independence and realizing like, okay, well, this business connection wasn't for me. I'm not angry at that. Okay, how could I pioneer this differently? And a lot of you, when you're being authentic and honoring your expression of who you are, you're pioneering something for the first time. So again, a lot of us are ushering in a world that no matter how much people want to attack and weapons may form, they shall not prosper. Because our world is not like our mothers and fathers and our great grandmothers and so forth. They masked it well. A lot of them were a part of those communities, but they hid behind religion. A lot of them was part of a lot of things, but they hid behind their marriages, or they hid behind whether they went to jail or prison. It's a lot of things I can go into detail about, and y'all don't realize it's exposing all walks of life. If you, like I said, no one has my lifestyle. That's fine. But the boundaries comes in to where you will respect me, or you don't have to be in my life. And so, again, in the aspect of being a dark man, this is something where fighting for not just only my independence, but that self-expression, the love I have for myself, the confidence I have, not being fearful of society and certain norms, because how dare I be authentic? How dare I step up? How dare I support people that don't look like me? It's so many things I can go into depth of. Y'all don't realize, like, this retrograde has been very monumental. So just know that these things that as it says here, Aquarius love shaking shit up. That's one thing I recognize about my princess. She's a Aquarius, and my mom. Listen, I carry that energy, and we all carry this energy. But you realize, like, you get into a place where it's okay to be yourself, and whoever don't like it, that's their fucking problem. That's truly their problem. Because the more I got to know myself, the more I get to know myself, I'm realizing, like, I don't have to feel shame and guilt around pioneering or traveling down the road that's least traveled, or creating my thing stone by stone, and creating a world where people just want to feel safe. I had to learn that to what it is to feel safe and to honor my independence and to love myself and to walk in what is naturally organic for me, and so shall you, so that your kids can know that there's nothing to fear in this world. All those illusions of control and power where people want to put projections out there like, oh, you shouldn't do this. Listen, who else gonna do it? Who else gonna do it? I love y'all. I love everybody. I love myself even more as I start to just walk and embody who it is, because again, I've been experienced personally power struggles when it comes to, I know a lot of you, when it comes to like parental things, governmental things, societal norms, even how you express yourself, and it's not in vain. Because a lot of we have to go through these things so that we can see the bigger picture on what our purpose is, to walk into our destiny, to align with people who uphold these very things. You know, whether it's in your artistry, your music, your expression, your sexuality, your sensuality, whatever it is, like, it's not in vain, bro. I used to want to believe that until I realized it was for me to develop my own belief systems, and I realized I'm in a world that don't even know how to create their own, or they're going off societal norms, or, well, the company said this and this and said this and this, and I don't realize, like, there's a reason why things contractually happen the way it does. But I've noticed, like, when things get a little hectic and chaotic, because I honestly see it from a perspective, that's a spiritual breaching. That contract is void. That's like if you and I make an agreement on something and so forth, and then it doesn't follow through. I have every right to get up and walk away. And that ain't just verbally, that's just like relationships, partnerships, power struggle, where this person want this person want this, and that's why you see so much when it comes to marriages. All of these things are highlighted right now. And the truth is, we all want to live, well, not everybody, but we all want to, experience some type of harmony and peace, especially in this Libra season. We all want to experience something much better. And you got to go through the fucking karma. Somebody asked me what karma was. I said, look, they lessons. Just to experience more dharma. Dharma, look it up. Karma and dharma. Like, these are all just things for you to come into the awareness that you can experience something completely different. It ain't no one keeping you from it. That's the illusion of power and control. It's you keeping you from it. And I used to sit there and try to fight against it so much, and I realized, yo, hold on. It's okay to be honest and authentic. It's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. But that ain't got nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with them, something they haven't faced within them. And that, I go through it daily, sometimes with triggering and some things that bother me. I'm like, bro, then I have to reflect, introspect, go back to myself and realize, like, you know what? At the end of the day, I got to sit with me. I gotta find a way. I got to find some type of common ground. I got to find somewhere, some peaceful common ground of harmony. And realize, like, other people's decisions have nothing to do with me. It's going to have an effect regardless. And how I respond to it is the best option. So y'all take care of yourself. Be beautiful. Love yourself. Let your essence be shown to the world. Don't dim your light for nobody or nothing. Peace and blessing. Shalom.